Marie sat at the kitchen table, nervously twisting a napkin in her hands. At 70 years old, she never imagined that her financial situation would be this dire. For most of her life, she and Jim had worked hard, but now they were faced with a future that felt uncertain and overwhelming. With no retirement savings and mounting debts, their financial security seemed to be slipping away. Marie and Jim had $18,000 in cash, but it didn't feel like nearly enough. They owed $22,000 on their house, which was worth about $200,000. Along with the mortgage, they also had $1,200 in debt on a car. The pair had no investment savings or emergency funds, aside from the small cash they were sitting on. Jim, ever the optimist, thought it made sense to use the $18,000 they had to pay off the car. After that, he proposed they apply the $400 car payment toward the mortgage each month. While Marie saw the logic in this, she couldn't shake her worries. What if it wasn't enough to keep them afloat? What if something happened to her job, which was physically demanding, and didn't offer any guarantees? "I just want to make sure we can stay in our home," Marie said to her longtime friend Kyle over the phone. "I don't think we could afford anything cheaper than where we live right now. What should we do?" Kyle, sensing Marie's stress, asked her some more questions to better understand their situation. "How much do you both make every month?" Marie let out a deep sigh. "We have about $1,800 a month in Social Security. I also clean homes for extra income, which brings in another $2,000, but the work is exhausting. I don't know how much longer I can keep doing it." "And Jim?" Kyle asked. "He works part-time, but it's not regular. The store owner calls him in when needed. He has some health issues, so he can't work as much anymore." Kyle nodded thoughtfully. "Okay, so you've got $18,000 in cash, but it's not enough to cover everything, right?" Marie felt the tension in her chest tighten. They had an old but reliable truck, which was paid off. There was also an old convertible car, worth about $8,000, but selling it would mean giving up something that Jim truly loved, a cherished piece of their past. "Let's go over the options," Kyle suggested. "First, you need to sell the convertible. Use that $8,000 to pay off the car loan. Then, put the remaining money into an emergency savings fund." Marie frowned, the idea of selling the convertible not sitting well with her. She knew how much it meant to Jim, but Kyle was right. It had to be done. Once the car debt was cleared, Kyle continued, they could apply the $400 a month that Jim was no longer paying for the car toward the mortgage. This would help pay it off quicker and give them more breathing room. "It's going to be tough for a while," Kyle said, "but you need to start with this plan. And once the debt is cleared, you'll have much more peace of mind. You may think to keep or sell the house later." Marie wasn't thrilled about the sacrifices, but she could see the logic. "Okay," she said, "but what if something happens to my job? What happens if I can't keep working?" Kyle's tone softened. "That's a valid concern. But listen, if you clear this debt, you'll have more freedom. You won't have to stress about the mortgage or car payments. You'll be able to breathe again." Marie knew that Kyle was right. The more she thought about it, the more she realized that the hardest part was going to be letting go of things that no longer served them. Jim's convertible, their large home, it was all part of their past, but it wasn't going to help them secure the future they wanted. "I'll sell the convertible," Marie said after a long pause. "It's time to let go." Kyle smiled. "That's the first step. Once you've done that, you'll be able to focus on paying off your mortgage without feeling so stressed." The following weeks were filled with tough decisions. Marie and Jim put the convertible up for sale, and when it sold for $8,000, they used that money to pay off the car. They kept the remaining cash as an emergency fund, and started putting every extra dollar toward the mortgage. Though Marie missed their old home, it was becoming clearer that staying there wasn't sustainable. They had talked about the possibility of selling the house for some time, but it wasn't until this point that it felt like a real option. As Jim's health continued to decline, Marie's physical work became harder. She knew she had to make some major changes before it was too late. "Kyle," she said one day, "I'm thinking about selling the house. We could use the money to pay off all our debts and maybe buy a smaller place. But I don't know if I can handle all the changes." Kyle, ever the patient friend, listened carefully. "Marie, I know this is hard, but think about it. If you sell the house, you can pay off all your debts, move to a place you can afford, and still have some money left. You'd be debt-free, and you wouldn't have the weight of that mortgage hanging over you." Marie was still unsure, but Kyle's words made sense. "We could sell the house for around $200,000, and after paying off the mortgage, we'd have about $180,000 left. If we bought a $100,000 condo, we'd be debt-free with $80,000 left over. We could invest that money to generate some income." The idea of downsizing to a smaller place was scary. The large home they had lived in for so long had so many memories: raising children, holidays, family gatherings. But it was also too big for them now. The condo Kyle was suggesting would be simpler and much more affordable. "I guess it would be the smart thing to do," Marie said quietly. "We could invest the remaining money in some low-risk options, maybe put some in a high-yield savings account. That way, we wouldn't have to worry so much about the future." "Exactly," Kyle replied. "You could look into investment options through platforms like Betterment or Vanguard, which offer great retirement planning tools and low-risk investment strategies. Plus, with a reliable savings plan in place, you can have a steady income without taking on more debt." Marie felt a weight lift from her shoulders. The idea of investing the remaining money in a high-yield savings account or stocks seemed like the right next step. It would ensure that they were secure in the long term, with the potential for passive income growing over time. She looked at Jim, who was still recovering from his health issues, and knew this was the best choice for them. Within a month, they sold the house, and with the $180,000 they received, they bought a comfortable condo for $100,000. The remaining $80,000 went into a mix of investments, including a Vanguard Total Stock Market ETF and a Betterment retirement account. It wasn't glamorous, but it was manageable. They were debt-free and no longer burdened by the constant stress of high monthly payments. Marie continued cleaning homes, but now, instead of worrying about bills, she focused on finding joy in her work and the time she could spend with Jim. They still faced challenges, but now they were better prepared to handle whatever came their way. They lived in the condo for a few years, content with their decision to simplify and secure their future. Marie was able to stop working as much, and Jim's health improved thanks to the less stressful environment. Their money grew slowly, but steadily, through smart investments and budgeting tools like Mint to track their spending and keep their finances in check. As they sat on the balcony of their new home one evening, watching the sunset, Marie felt an overwhelming sense of peace. They had made it through one of the toughest times in their lives, and though it wasn't easy, they were finally in control of their finances. "Sometimes, the hardest decisions lead to the most freedom," Marie said to Jim, squeezing his hand. "We did the right thing." If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe for more content. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so drop a comment and share your story with us. And if you're interested in the products featured, check out the affiliate links in the description to grab them for yourself.